everyone, I hope you guys are having a great day so far. I wanted to hop on and talk to you guys about something that I feel like God has been kind of nudging me towards the last few days. And I want to be very careful to distinguish when it's Jill talking with things that I have suspicions of versus what God has actually said over the situation, right? But I will tell you this. I had a dream, and I'm not going to reiterate it again. If you guys are interested, I reiterated it pretty recently on my YouTube channel, so you can go look up the purple bus dream. But a few weeks ago, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was now, I reposted and talked about a dream that God gave me on February 1st, 2024 that I called the purple bus dream. And in that dream, we were in a lockdown scenario. They were doing drills of some sort, preparing for, some big thing. And I knew that it was we couldn't travel, we couldn't leave the house kind of a scenario, some kind of a lockdown-like situation. I don't know if we technically couldn't leave our houses, but I knew we were under some kind of a lockdown curfew-like thing in this dream. So I had that dream again, February 1st, 2024. Okay, so February of last year. And God brought that up a few weeks ago, and I was like, that's interesting, God. I wonder why you're bringing that up. And sometimes God will do that with me. He did that right before we had the power outages, and we got the confirmation on that as he reiterated that dream that he had given me months before. And then right after that, the event happened. So I'm not saying that this would happen immediately because that's not always the way that it works. But God was definitely bringing it up again. Let's put it that way, okay? So I was kind of pondering on that, and I was like, God, what does that represent? And I was thinking on that, and I didn't get a clear answer. And whenever I don't get a clear answer, I'm not going to say anything, a lot of the time. I just sit on stuff sometimes because I know that God will show me at the right timing and in his timing, So that's kind of what I've been doing with that. Haven't fully understood completely what it was about, but parts of it, are kind of self-explanatory. It was some kind of a lockdown, curfew, probably like situation with that. Okay. So yesterday I prayed for about an hour and I had one singular vision, just one, and it was of a camel. Okay. And the interpretation with that came immediately, and I knew exactly what God was talking about. And I wanted to talk to you guys, of all things, I know this is going to seem a little bit random, I wanted to talk to you guys about the way the camels work. A lot of us know what a camel is, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it because there was a point that God was trying to reiterate with this, and that was part of the word that he gave me yesterday. And I wanted to talk about how camels and their humps work, okay? So I'm going to read you just a basic thing from a Google search, okay? It's nothing fancy, but it says camels do a great job of conserving water, allowing them to thrive in some of the harshest and hottest environments globally. A common misconception is that camels store water in their humps, but this is far from true. Their humps store fat, which provides them with energy for long distances. And as we know, a lot of camels are known for kind of surviving in harsh conditions like desert environments, stuff like that. And the camel that God showed me in this vision was very interesting because apparently there's two types of camels. I had to do some research on this. There's camels that have one hump, and then there's camels that have two humps. And this was apparently a two hump kind of a camel situation going on. And so immediately what God spoke to me with that is he was like, make sure that you store up a little bit. So just like camels use that fat in their humps, and apparently I learned this yesterday too, apparently the humps change sizes. So as they get depleted of resources, the fat in the humps goes down, but as they have more resources, the humps can grow on a camel. So I learned a lot. I did not know all of this. But what God was reemphasizing to me is he was like, make sure that you got a little bit stored up. Now I have no idea time frame, and this may have just been for me personally thing, but I don't think it is based on, well, this is the part where it's just Jill talking. I've told you what God talked about. So what God has spoken is the purple bus dream and this camel concept, which means to get a little bit stored up. And I would encourage you guys to pray about whether or not this is for you, because you may live in a different area from me. and this may not be the same concept, but I know that for me personally, he was saying, make sure that you got a little bit on hand, and I truly believe that if you can't go there and if you can't do that right now, God provides, but if you do have the ability, think about the stuff that you would need on a regular basis, and just have a little bit stored up. That's what I would say, I don't think we have to go crazy and go hoarding stuff. It's not like that, but just make sure that you've got a little bit on hand if something were to happen. Now, let me now start talking to you about purely Jill's perspective. This is not God talking, okay? This is just me starting to, I think, based on some God winks over the last days, potentially putting some pieces together. So this is not God. This could be totally off, but I think that this is a high probability, okay? I think that potentially what the purple bus dream represents is some kind of a martial law situation here in the United States specifically. I don't know that for a fact. That is Jill talking, not God. But the more that I get God winks towards it, and after this camel thing yesterday, just think about it. If we were to go in that type of situation, we would potentially have very limited access to get to things or to travel or to go places for however long this lasted. And maybe it would just be like a few days. Maybe it would be more extended depending on, what caused it. I did some research on what caused us to go into martial law. And those of you guys who understand this a little better, please leave some feedback in the comments so that you can educate me and others. Because I know that a lot of you guys probably have background where you are way more schooled on what martial law is and why it's implemented. But from what little bitty bits of research that I just did, it sounds like martial law can be implemented when there's like a major natural disaster kind of a situation. It can be implemented potentially in a wartime situation. Basically, it's implemented to try to keep order and to protect the citizens, was kind of what I got out of it. If you guys have any more gems on that who know way more than I do, please feel free to leave that because that'll help people. But I do think that it's very interesting that God gave a very direct wink yesterday towards me of make sure you got a little bit stored up, right? The camel concept, they store the fat in their humps. I think that fat represents resources, right? So that if you had to be in a position where you needed it for a little bit, you'd have what you need. Right. He didn't give me an exact time frame. I don't know that, but pray about that for you and for your family. Okay. And then the combination of him bringing up that bus dream recently and what my nudge is, again, this is Jill talking, not Jesus, but my nudge, I am leaning more and more, just based on a few God winks, I'm not going to get into that, over the fact that it could represent a martial law like situation that we will be under in the future. I have no idea on a time frame on this. And I'm not going to tell you guys a time frame because if I don't hear from God, I'm not going to tell you that, right? But I would encourage you guys to pray about this. If you need to go back and revisit that purple bus dream, think about it. But if we did have to be in a lockdown situation because of an emergency or something that comes up in the future, could you and your family be okay for a little bit? If something big went down and you didn't have access to the stuff that you normally have access to, and yes, God provides, but sometimes he gives us warning and we have a part to play in making sure that we're a little bit prepared for stuff to come down the pipeline. And that's not to freak people out. We don't need to be freaked out. Fear is not from the Lord, right? He's going to take care of us. And if you're listening to his voice, you're going to be okay. Right. However, I do think that he's talking to us right now for a reason. So I'll leave you guys with that today. Be prayerful about this and let me know if God gives you anything else or if you got some good revelation to share. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll chat with you again soon.